Yes, I put the money where you told me to put the money. It's all there. I mean, I took out $5 to tip the cab driver, but the rest of it's all there. I mean, we need to get this done. I need my MC back.
Okay.
So, John, let's play our favorite game. Which one of these two people do you think is associated with balloons, and which one's associated with an X-Men tattoo?
Before I answer that question, I want to know if Ryan is actually sitting 15 feet away from his keyboard or if he's just using a webcam with the widest angle lens I've ever seen in my life.
So I teach guitar lessons at the same setup.
Right.
So I need a wide angle so people can see my hands as I'm teaching.
Okay, fair enough.
That's why it looks the way it looks.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
a wacky effect, and it's got that Willy Wonka, aspect to it, which I totally approve of. But if I was going to think Willy Wonka, I would also think balloons, in which case I would be looking at Barbara's collection behind her, which is actually kind of fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is Ryan. We
Balloons
were
are
just
my
afraid
brand.
you're at minimum safe distance or something, that something was going to happen. I'm sorry, Barbara. I didn't mean to overtalk you. Go ahead.
Okay. Balloons are my brand.
And I have an X-Men tattoo.
Very
There you
cool.
go. That's your brand.
So you say balloons are your brand. What do you mean by that? What do you do with them, Barbara?
Well, sometimes they have a way of sneaking into my stories. Like when I've written short stories in the past and some of the books that I have out that I have written, there are scenes where there's a character that likes balloons, or maybe there's a scene involving balloons. Let's put it that way.
You know. So you mentioned Ryan guitar. Tell us a little bit about that. What got you playing?
I play everything. I started playing when I was 15, 14. I'm 35 now, so I've been playing like 20 years. I started out playing rock, and then when I wanted to go to college for music, there's not really any schools where you can study rock guitar, so I learned to play jazz guitar very fast. That did not go well. None of those schools wanted someone who learned to play jazz guitar 3 months ago. They wanted people who've been going to jazz guitar camp since they were 10. But I've
Yeah.
kind of been playing just a little bit of everything since then. I teach lessons, so whatever my students bring in is what we're going to work on that week. So I know just a little bit of everything.
Yeah. I was just watching a video on how musically weird the girl from Ipanema actually is. The way
The timing is
yes.
difficult.
I'm something of a musical illiterate, but I could appreciate when they say, so this is played in E. You will notice there are no E's on the music at all. This is played in F. There are no F's on the music here at all. Yeah, it is a fascinating piece of music, and one of the things they talk about is how jazz guitar actually influenced the way it was written.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so if you were choosing the music your students are learning, what would you have them learning?
I'd be doing like Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, so like very technically complex instrumental rock music.
Can you mention anything that those guys have done that people might have heard of?
Steve
Maybe for
Vai
us.
was the guitarist. So after Eddie Van Halen kicked David Lee Roth out of Van Halen, Steve Vai was the guy in David Lee Roth's solo band. They did like
Okay.
Casey Rose and Ladies Night in Buffalo. That's all him just rocking it on the guitar, trying to out Van Halen.
Everything I know about guitar rock is very firmly in the 1970s and all the progressive rock guys who are doing it. I think guys who are old white dudes now with these crazy long arms and these wacky fingers and stuff like that.
Yeah, Steve Vai fits into that pretty well with like
Fair
the
enough.
wacky hair and the long fingers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Joe
I've, no,
Satriani just has the wacky fingers. He's bald.
I've got no guitar experience at all. My brother owns like three of them. I never see him play them, but he played a lot in college. I remember that. And I took 1 year of clarinet in high school, and my wife said, "No, that's too nerdy. You have to learn to play the guitar." So eventually, I will get around to it at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
My cousin plays the harp, and she does
Nice,
it for a
Incredible.
living.
very cool.
Lori Andrews. Yeah, she plays the harp. Me, I'm just happy to listen to the music, to my oldies. I love my oldies.
Hmm.
And that's my thing for music. But a musician in our family was definitely Lori.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm the one person who can't carry a tune in my family. My dad had a beautiful singing voice. My mom sang professionally. My sister used to teach piano and sings beautifully. My brother played guitar and sings beautifully. I'm the one guy can't even keep the radio in tune, but I appreciate, and
My
I
mother's
sing
been
loud.
playing. My mother's been playing the piano for 45 years, but it's all classical music. No, classical meaning
How
Bach.
long a piece was it? 45 years.
Some of those classical pieces are pretty nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Goldberg Variations is her great. Is That's her Mount Everest. She will not give up until she's mastered all of them.
Yeah. I scored very big points with one of my board game friends because I walked into his house. I looked over and said, "That's a theremin." He was like, "You know what that is?" His wife is Darlene Washa. She plays at concert level on the theremin.
Wow.
That's
And
Wow.
insane.
she had a theremin that Robert Moog, as in Moog Synthesizers, Robert Moog hand built for her.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
And
incredible.
he was just in shock. Somebody walked in and actually had any idea what they were looking at. It was like, that's a theremin and that's a theremin. He was like, yes, that was the one that was handmade, and that's the yeah, yes. Um, Music gets very interesting. The piece that I'm writing right now, not a musical piece, the story I'm writing right now, I went back and realized that I had included no music to set the time period. It's set in the 1980s, and it's like, I know this music really well. And I went back and started injecting the musical taste for the main character in it, and it got very interesting when I started looking at the range of music I listened to. Because in the 80s, I was the kind of kid who sat there listening to Carole King and said, "This is like the best music in the world," and then turned on Jethro Tull and listened to Ian Anderson, and then went over and picked up Bootsy Collins and started playing Parliament Funkadelic. And it was like, very, very widely eclectic taste because I had very widely eclectic friends. But it is interesting the way music affects us. There's
Absolutely.
a there's a post I saw recently where they made the comment, everyone's like, get a practical job, but what do they do when they want comfort? They play music. They quote
Yeah.
from their favorite books. They watch movies. What do they do at a funeral? They quote passages. All these things are critical to us being human, and we really need to give them the space in our lives.
There's a piece of classical music out there called Fairy Air that is designed to be unplayable. And it's written on this gigantic sheet of paper that is all a mishmash of weird things. It's got directions that say, release the penguins, and now the harpists stand up, and things like that. And so when Anthea Sharp invited me to her latest Phelan collection, I said, I want to write a story that has to do with this piece of music. And she said, make it happen. It took me 6 months to figure out how, but I made it happen.
Nice.
Was the story published?
The story was published. It's in the Phelan Omnibus, which she did through a Kickstarter campaign, but it is available for purchase on Amazon. I can link you guys to that because it's actually a piece of writing I'm pretty proud of.
We'll add that link
Congratulations.
in. Yeah,
Yeah.
very good. Well, since we've pivoted to writing, we should pivot to writing. Barbara, would you like to read to us?
Sure. Okay. I publish a magazine called Night to Dawn, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the magazine first, especially the issue that just came out, Night to Dawn 48. It features fiction tales along with zombies and vampires. Whatever the genre is, you should explore the Night to Dawn magazine with the understanding that holy objects and garlic may not protect you. The Night to Dawn vampire is no ordinary species. You might meet the blood drinker if you are a walking skeleton or even a human vampire. Then there are the psychic vampires. In recent years, Night to Dawn has been featuring werewolves, zombies, and other monsters, but always with the bloodlust theme. My goal is to showcase showcase the work of writers who share a passion for the horror genre. By featuring upcoming artists and writers, I hope to bring new life into the world of the undead. Night to Dawn 48 will offer tales, poetry, and illustrations by Todd Hanks, Lee Clark Zump, Charles Gramlich, Marge Simon, Sandy DeLuca, and other contributors that will appeal to your spine. You might want to sleep with the lights on afterwards. And if you're in the market for a good movie, you might want to check out Lee Clark Zump's interviews in Night Gallery. I did post a sample read of one of my authors, Hilary Lyon, who wrote In Widow's Weeds. A young widow's tale of woe gets them every time. Never mind that the young widow has been bereaved for several generations, that the great grandfathers of today heard the same story from her rose tinted lips, lips that curved down ever so slightly, just enough to make her companions wonder how they, and they alone, could bring light to her inner darkness. So it goes. Eva joined an online support group for the newly bereaved. It was to her liking. It was much better than the groups meeting in person. How tedious and tiresome the in person group sessions tended to be, especially the ones that met in church fellowship halls. All those crosses, hymnals, and prayer books. The very existence of such things turned her stomach. The internet provided her with much more freedom. She learned to craft personas that would draw the most attention and sincere sympathy from online group members, especially from the group's curators. In video sessions, she wore authentic Victorian widow's weeds. Everyone else wore their everyday clothes and looked depressed, disheveled, and bland. Eva looked every inch the solemn angel in mourning with her pale skin and black hair, her carved obsidian heart pendant nesting against her full bosom, and her knack for posing just so for the computer's tiny camera. All eyes were drawn to Eva, even when other members had the virtual floor. And though it was discouraged, members sent her private messages, messages requiring meetings over coffee, meetings over a casual lunch, meetings in the park, just for conversation, for mutual support in their time of grief. Of course, she said yes, yes, and yes to each and every one. Each grief group she belonged to eventually closed down as members drifted away, often without notice. A few always moved on to other groups as their grief was never extinguished, and they craved the ears and tears of other survivors. Eva felt otherwise. Her grief had expired long ago with the interment of her first husband, Jonathan. He promised her love everlasting, but chose a self inflicted death over living with her. She was attending the theater when it happened. She never saw his body and never had the opportunity to prepare him for burial. And that's why, I'm sharing because I know that other people need to read their things. But I just wanted to give you a flavor of how the stories read. But there's actually all kinds of story, and there's humor in there too.
That was creepy. I liked it.
Thank you.
Works better if my mic isn't muted. What got you into horror?
There we go.
So what got you into horror? What got you interested in it?
Well, when I was a kid, I loved Dark Shadows. That was my favorite TV program. And when I got home from school, I used to race home just so I could get home in time to sit down before the TV and watch it. And then I watched all the Hammer films on Dracula. And there were other things that happened to me, but those were the things that really got me into it. And then I continued watching the horror movies. And then finally, one of my college instructors got me into writing. It was funny how she did it. It was after my mom passed away, and she thought that I should start writing short stories to help get through the grief. So a lot of my short stories involved a protag whose mother or father had died when they were young.
You said there are 48 issues at this point?
Well, yeah, actually, I wasn't the editor when the first several issues came out. I've been publishing this since the year 2004.
That's quite the commitment.
Well, I'm still hanging in there, and I try to do 2 issues a year, and I've been able to make it. And issue 49 will be coming out in March 26th.
Do you
Plus, I'm
have any? Sorry. Do you have any special plans for the 50th issue?
no special plans for the 50th issue that I thought about. I know that I'm also working on different authors' books as well. Like I publish books for other people, and I have a book coming out from. I have a book coming out. I have a book coming. I just had a book released from Michael DiStefano, American Odyssey, and then I have one coming up from Lynn McConchy. One is one, and I'm in the editing stage on that one. It's slow going, but it'll come out probably. I'd like to say by the fall, but it might be a little later than that.
Hmm.
So what about you, Ryan? What got you into horror?
I think I've kind of always been into it. I mean, I remember reading like Edgar Allan Poe in 6th grade. I read Firestarter when I was like 8 or 9. And I went to the barber shop with that book, with a copy of Firestarter, and the barbers were all really impressed that I was a little kid reading Stephen King. I think that really imprinted on me. Just like everyone thought I was so cool, so I just kept doing it. Just kind of always liked it.
Stephen King's a great author.
Yeah, well,
barbers don't have the same effect on me, but So, Ryan, why don't we hear from you? You have some ready for us to hear?
Yes, absolutely. Somebody reading to y'all from my new book, Say Uncle. I should pull the cover up. We're reading from a little bit into chapter 1. This is set in 2005, and I regret to inform you all that makes it a historical novel.
Don't tell people that part.
And so Braden is our main character. He just got sent upstairs to his uncle's apartment in New York City. They got sent to the upstairs apartment, him and his 2 cousins and his sister. The layout of the upstairs apartment followed the intestinal shape of the downstairs, with each room feeding into the next. But there were no carpets, no paintings, no pictures, no life. The hardwood floors warped upward. A queen-sized bed pressed against the wall in the second room. Shadows gathered in the corners in defiance of the overhead lights. A draft shuddered through the apartment. "Echo!" Paul Jr. yelled, even though there really wasn't one. "Do you want to see the room where Miss Harriet died?" Maria asked. "No," I said, but Paul Jr. had me by the wrist and Leslie was pushing me from behind. "It took them weeks to clean up the blood," Maria said as she opened the bathroom doors. "They had to use special cleaners," Paul Jr. said. "Whoever scrubbed it did a good job. From what I could tell, it was a regular New York City bathroom with a white tub, a toilet, and a sink cramped together, leaving a tiny square for a small person to stand. The mirror hung across from the toilet, so you would have to look yourself in the eye while you shat." "Do you think there's a ghost?" Leslie asked. "There's no such thing as ghosts," I said. "Mommy says there is," Paul Jr. said. "I've seen her eyes looking back at me in the mirror," Maria said matter-of-factly. "What do they look like?" Leslie asked. "Stop," I said. "You're going to give yourself nightmares." Of course they ignored me. They didn't listen and I'd be the one to get in trouble. "Her eyes are brown," Maria said. "Mine are blue. But when I look in the mirror, I see her eyes instead of mine." "I've seen it too," Paul Jr. said. They dragged me into the kitchen. This would be perfect for hide and go seek," Leslie said. "Braden's it," Paul Jr. and Maria yelled at once. "Close your eyes and count to 100, Leslie said. "Oh, and no one is allowed to go on the right side of the apartment. Everyone has to hide on this side," Paul Jr. said. "That's Daddy's rule." This isn't a good idea, I said. But the 3 of them were already scurrying away. There was no furniture, so I didn't know where they thought they would hide. But I closed my eyes and pretended to count. I didn't want to step another foot in the place. But I didn't want them to see me balk either. They were going to have to live here. "Ready or not, here I come." There wasn't any sign of them, and I felt someone watching me. I spun in a slow circle. No one was there. Goosebumps popped up on the back of my neck. The temperature in the upstairs apartment seemed to plummet. I wanted to find the kids quickly, but instead I walked slowly, checking on my sides and behind me as I progressed. The paint peeling off the baseboards and the archways without doors didn't leave space for the kids to hide, yet I couldn't see them. I creeped under the first archway. Someone giggled behind a closet door. I snuck over and grabbed the knob. One of them was inside. I twisted and pulled. Even knowing what was coming, I fell on my back, a cry choking in my throat when Paul Jr. jumped out yelling. He laughed like it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. Braden, do you want to see something cool? Before I could say no, he was guiding me into the closet. It had a separate exit on the other side of the apartment. I know we're not supposed to go on this side, but look at this, he said, and opened the door. A mossy smell assaulted my nostrils. The temperature dropped a degree, maybe two. He guided me into the room by the hand. I could have stopped him. I was bigger, older, but I was too stunned. We emerged in a dark room. The only light carried through the closet and lit the small section we were standing in before being devoured by the shadows. I reached back for the wall, hoping against hope that the light switch would be on this side. Don't turn on the lights, Paul Jr. said. He disappeared into the darkness. There was no way I would have followed him. I touched something with a texture like the exoskeleton of a cockroach. I jerked my hand away and swallowed a gag. Paul, I said, whispering. If I didn't bring him back, Uncle Paulie would kill me. Paul, I said louder. I grabbed at the frame of the closet door, needing to touch something real. Whatever this was, it wasn't Narnia. Look at this, Braden. My cousin emerged from the shadows with a knife. Something moved in the darkness. It sounded like a vine being dragged out of a bush. I pressed my back against the wall. Fear froze me. When I unstuck myself, I said, let's take it back to the other room with the light. I put my hands up to smack the knife away, just in case. Okay. He led me back into the closet. What was in there, Paul? He held up the knife. The blade extended straight for 4 inches like a standard paring knife before curving back into a triangular point at the tip. Check out the handle. It was bone white. I had to squint to make it out in the relative darkness, but once I saw it, the shapes were unmistakable. The handle was cobbled together from shrunken skulls. I've got to put it back. Before I could grab him, he was gone. Something shook me from behind. I spun and I threw a small body into the wall. My sister screamed. I had my fists up, ready to fight. I was shaking. Leslie glared from the floor. Is he in there again? Maria asked from outside. Dad is going to be so mad. Paul Jr. pushed past me, knife nowhere to be seen. No, I was only in the closet. What the hell, Braden? Leslie said, climbing off the floor. Don't sneak up on me. Maria imitated my ready pose and Leslie chortled. At least if Leslie was laughing, I wouldn't get into trouble. The apartment door opened and I jumped again. Maria mimicked my pose, legs wide, fists up. This time Leslie and Paul Jr. did too. Pizza's here, Uncle Paulie said. And that's the end of chapter 1.
Very, very cool.
It's a solid chapter 1.
Thank you.
Every time I read or hear about a scene that has or any reference to cleaning blood off of a floor after a murder,
Right.
I am automatically taken back to that scene in American Psycho, the book, not the movie, where he's looking for the body that he stashed, and then he realizes that the real estate agent got there before him and cleaned up the whole place so she could sell the apartments. And the one thing he realizes he's afraid of in this life is real estate agents.
Well, you know, it actually reminded me a lot of Stephen King's The Shining.
Mm.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Any reference to Stephen King, I'm happy to, any comparison to Stephen King, I'm happy to accept.
Is the book available?
Yeah, it's out from Ghoulish. It's available pretty much everywhere. It's best for me if you buy it through ghoulish.rip, the press's website.
Okay.
Yeah. Make sure I have all these links. They're going to go at the end of the video, at the end of the audio for the people who hear
Okay, that would be
audio.
good, because then that way I may want to buy that book.
Thank you.
Very
It's
nice.
also, it's out on audio, and I narrated it, which was way harder than I thought it would be. But if you liked my reading, there's a lot more of that.
Yeah. Audio narration is its own special beast. My nephew's actually doing some work right now in that field, and I've looked at it a little bit. I've never done anything bigger than like a 6-minute piece, for promotional purposes. I haven't done a full book, but it's a very big commitment, and there's very exacting rules behind it. That's
Yeah,
quite the achievement.
it was. So I hired an engineer to work with me on the technical side. I was just shocked at how, like, so I'm a distance runner. I run marathons. And I would say, like, we did one day where I was reading for 6 hours straight.
Mhm.
And that was about as hard as running for 3 hours straight. It was
Yep.
like as physically grueling. And I had not, like, I expected, like, to be thirsty, to have a sore throat maybe, but it was like a workout in itself. I was very surprised how physically hard it was.
It's all about breath control.
Yeah, and I don't have any training or any breath control. That's probably why it was so hard.
Yeah, I'm a lifelong asthmatic. My breath control is actually quite good, but I can't do that for 6 hours.
It was
I've
a
never
long
even
day.
tried. I think maybe 15 minutes is as long as I can read something.
Yeah.
Okey-doke. So, Barbara, what do you have coming up next? You said issue 49 is coming out. You've got some books coming out.
Well, actually, I have a book I've been working on forever, and it actually features zombies, and it has a little bit of scene with ghosts, and it's about a woman whose husband who has Parkinson's, and she's looking for a cure, but in the meantime, this zombie apocalypse sprung up in her city, and started spreading. There was a virus going around, so she had to deal with that and try to take care of her sick husband. But she wanted to find a cure for her husband. And right now I have a beta reader. He's a very patient beta reader, looking through it and critiquing and making suggestions for changes. I was very fortunate to have this person do it for me.
It's always interesting when you create something like a zombie apocalypse and you put a character in there who's very dependent on the infrastructure we have in place.
Right. This one certainly is.
It highlights a lot of things about the way society needs to work and is supposed to work, and sometimes doesn't work.
Right.
What about you, Ryan? What have you got coming up for us?
I have a story in the anthology Gabagool, an anthology of mafia horror. Another story in Myths Reborn, Tales of Cryptid and Dark Folklore. So I got 2 short stories coming out. I have a Patreon where I do flash fiction, where I perform it, score it, and basically do everything. And I have a blast with that. It's called Drop Dead Fiction. And I'm working on a book called Call Waiting, which is about a young woman who's on the phone with an airline. And when they put her on hold, she's sent into a labyrinth with a minotaur and deadly traps. I'm writing it as an epic poem because I never want to sell any books.
Poetry is its own beast with its own rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we were at StokerCon, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's the Horror Writers Association's convention. And Linda Addison says that one of her rules is if they want her to do anything, they must have an open mic poetry that she hosts. Mm-hmm. She says she'll do any of the other things they want, but there must always be an open mic poetry. And I got to catch, unfortunately, half of it, not all of it, but it was really, really interesting watching the different levels and types of poetry that were there. But you're doing this as an epic poem.
Yeah.
How big a page count are you planning on?
I don't know. I know the first draft was 80 pages, like 30,000 words, but that was when it was in prose. And I decided to try it as an epic poem. And I'm calling them books after the Odyssey. So like on book 3, I finished book 3, I'm going on to book 4. And it's taking me like 2,500 words took me about 3 weeks. So this is going to be a long gestating process, I think.
It was
but
like
it is
running a marathon.
Yeah, an interesting challenge, and I'm writing it in meter, which is probably the actual hard part, is writing in meter. And I'm hoping that by the time I'm done, my prose will be more rhythmic, just because I've been doing this meter stuff for. I imagine this will take a year or two.
And then you're going to want to put music under it.
For this one, I would not do music with it. This one would just be published as a book, ideally.
Yeah, I can just see 30,000 words that you're getting. It's like thick as a brick by Tull. That point. Inagata Devita.
Yeah.
If you can fill both sides of an LP album, you got it made.
There you go. Well, vinyl has come back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, it was an absolute pleasure having you here.
Yep.
We're going to include links at the end, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
For
Have a
having
great
me.
evening, guys. It's been a blast talking to you. I just friended you both on Facebook, so if you see some weird guy coming asking for a friend, that's me.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're
Thank
all very social here.
you. Okay.
Okay.
All right, we got to holler for Dan. Actually, Danny was kidnapped. We can't holler for Danny. Somebody will write an outro, and there'll be an outro, but we'll take care. Yeah, don't ignore what I said about kidnapping. There was no kidnapping. Everything is fine. Our MC is perfectly all right. And I don't know where you got that story. My lawyer denies any involvement and tells me to deny any involvement. Our MC is just fine, thank you.
And now that Chuck has dug himself a great big hole with his own two hands, we should call it a night and say, all is well. Go to sleep.
Yep. Sounds good. Okay.
We can't keep doing the show without the MC. We need that. So help us out, all right? And yeah, look, I'll get you the other $5, or I'll buy you an ice cream cone or something, whatever you need. Let's just get this settled. We need Danny.